going to be discussing nutrition and breaking down some of the myths around nutrition in our panel called What's Eating You. So I'd like to thank our sponsors, NoireFitFest, Sweaty Betty, EMD UK, and Food Drinks. So I'm joined by our lovely panelists here. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Okay. Hi, my name is Amaeze. I'm a nutritionist, and I own a brand called Life's Recipe, which is a nutrition consultancy.
And I'm Phillip, and I'm the founder of a brand called Food Vitamin Energy, and we're on Instagram at Drink Food. And these are some of our products here on the table.
Okay, so welcome. Happy to get started. So if we're thinking about food and diet and our diet, particularly as African and Afro-Caribbean people, what do you think some of the myths or most common misconceptions are about our kind of traditional food or the ways that we eat?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, especially, living in the UK, we find that we kind of have to tailor our food to be quite Eurocentric, as opposed to honouring some of our cultural foods. So we're not really told that certain cultural foods are always good for us, because I guess there's not really much knowledge on it. So, we're often taught about the Mediterranean diet and things like that. So especially when I see clients for the first time and they said, oh my gosh, I had kale. Yeah. I'm like, what do you want me to do? So I feel like some people feel that, they're doing a good job by navigating away from their own cultural diet.
So that's what I was going to ask, because that's kind of what are some of the effects of those myths. And like you said, it's kind of moving away from our traditional foods in favour of more Western foods. I don't know if you...
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing I think is, like, when you talk about traditional foods, like, what are we really talking about? Are we talking about jollof rice? Is that really a traditional food? Like,
how would you define traditional food?
Well, but historically, jollof rice is not, sorry Ghanaians, particularly, and Nigerians out there, jollof rice is just not really a traditional African food. It's not. It's, it's a food that's kind of a colonial food made for people who came to Africa who didn't want to eat yam or didn't want to eat cassava or things like this. So the reality is that our diets are kind of, I don't know how to call them, they're kind of
hybrid, would you say?
Yeah, they're kind of hybrid anyway. And actually those diets which are maybe high in carbs, like unnecessary, or I would say like carbs that don't have a great deal of substance to them, the nutritionist can tell us more. But eating a lot of white rice and things like this are just, they're not good for us, and we eat these things in high quantities as staples actually, and that's not really what we're supposed to be eating.
Yeah, I mean, I would add, I think I err on the side of our traditional. You're right. I believe that there is a hybridization going on with our traditional diets, and whether it's kind of West Africa or whether it's the Caribbean, it is kind of, they've come out of colonialism and slavery and things. But I think there are some real benefits to those foods. So I know what you're saying in terms of the rice, but then things that are actually grown out of the ground, like the yams and the plantains, coconuts,
so we're going to vegetables. So many different things.
We're going to move on to that actually. So my next question is kind of, what are some of the benefits of eating our traditional foods? And some of the ones I was thinking about, like I said, the yams, the plantains, coconut, which they call I can't remember now, but basically it's got a whole range of nutrients that you need to survive, from the water to the flesh. Sure. So given the benefits of our traditional foods and what we can see sometimes when we go back to our countries, whether it's West Africa or the Caribbean, we see a rise in kind of fast food chains and people kind of moving to a more Western style of living and diet. What do you think, how can we ensure that we keep the best parts of our traditional diets and foods alongside the Western, or keeping in mind that is going on?
Yeah, I think while we do see a move to Western diets and things like that, there are things that we can keep within our own diet. So, for example, you've got in the Nigerian culture, you've got different soups which are have loads of vegetables in them, so it's high in fiber. So you can keep those things in there. Yes, we do have a lot of refined carbohydrates and things like that, and quite things like a lot of yams and things like that. But there are things such as you've got sweet potatoes, you've got like I said, you've got a lot of greens. So I guess it's about incorporating those elements into a diet which you don't have to stick to your cultural diet, but you can still, if you want to incorporate certain elements into it and make it what you want it to be, really.
And I would say there's definitely, for example, I found, because I have sickle cell, and sickle cell is a red blood cell disorder, what it does, it makes me feel really tired, and often, depending on what I eat, then I'm either, either sends me down or sends me up. So if I eat food and I feel, I'm energized, then I know these things are good and they're helping. And so things I've tried to discover is like making like porridge, like millet porridge, and mixing it with oats, and having things like amaranth and
both of the nutritionists like
but these types of different types of grains, but these are super grains, and these things come from our cultures as well, and these are the kind of things we can incorporate into our diets to kind of for health and well-being and for energy, but the more processed kind of carbohydrates are those fufu, those ground rice, which are just pure white, starchy powders, those kind of things are highly refined, and really we should be cutting them down. And even these soups, in reality, I grew up on okra soup, but how long did those okra spend in the pot boiling up? Do you know what I mean? What's the, I don't know, you could tell me, what's the level of nutrients that's still remaining in those okras after they've been cooked for like an hour?
One thing I'd say about, I think this is one misconception about cooking things, like, so for example, sometimes when you cook things, yes, you do lose some nutrients from them, but actually you don't always lose all the nutrients. So for example, with tomatoes, when you're cooking stew, let's say there's an antioxidant called lycopene in tomatoes, which are actually increased when you cook them. But a lot of people will say, oh no, I have to have everything fresh and raw, and it's like, okay, but there are some benefits of cooking, and you don't always lose certain nutrients.
And it's also about, as well, what in Jamaica I think they call it either pot water or dishwater, but it's basically when you boil vegetables, they will actually drink the water that the vegetables have been cooked in as well, so they're taking in those nutrients from the water and from the vegetables. Based on something both of you were saying, in terms of how we can ensure we keep the best parts of our traditional diets, for me, out of what you were both saying, it sounds like it comes down to knowledge as well. Like there isn't the knowledge around, what works for our bodies, what nourishes our bodies, and what are the things that don't. And like you touched on the ancient grains, a lot of people don't know that they are actually traditional African grains, So, I'd add that bit in as well. So if you think about traditional foods and maintaining our health, how can we best incorporate them into our kind of daily diets and kind of maintain our health or even optimize our health?
I think one thing that I hear a lot or see a lot, especially within Afro-Caribbean diets, is the hidden salts. So, I remember watching a food cooking video, and the lady said, see, I haven't added any salt. No salt has been added, and I was like, you fully just added 2 Maggi cubes. Like, you added salt.
Just 2. I remember my mum used to ask me to peel the Maggi cubes to go into the stew. I'd peel like 8 or 10 Maggi cubes and peel them and drop them.
But that's the thing, is that I think, like you said with the whole education, is that people will think, so for example, that Maggi cubes aren't really high in salt when probably the main ingredient is salt, and then they'll add salt on top of that. Or, and then also about how you're mixing the flavors and like cooking the flavors down so that you get the real flavor first before you add the salt, and finding other ways of having salt, such as adding lemons to bring out the flavor. And I think it's just that really re-education of and I think I touched on salt because salt was quite a big one.
Considering kind of the lifestyle diseases that we tend to suffer from in terms of high blood pressure and things like that. Okay. So just moving on a little bit then, I mean, when I speak to people as a nutritionist, not particularly clients, but just, general people, one of the things that comes up is budget. It's expensive to eat healthy, it's expensive to go out and buy all these fruit and vegetables that go off. I'm not shopping at Whole Foods, I'm not going to Planet Organic, that type of thing. So how do you think that people can eat healthily on a budget?
What would you say?
Well, I would say, I'm a lay person in this, and I've just gone on my own nutritional journey, and just by learning and experimenting and just learning what works for my body. And I found that with the sickle cell, I found that it makes me kind of hypersensitive to like, if I'm doing good things or if I'm doing bad things, I'll know very quickly if it's good or bad. So things like alcohol, I found bad, you know, it's bad for my body. Cutting down things like alcohol is really helpful. For me personally, things like being plant-based, and we talk about like, you know, I know, you know, myself, I didn't learn of anybody who was a vegetarian even until I was like graduated from university. Right. I had never met anybody, right. And in my first job I was like, wow, you're a vegetarian? I was like, is this some sort of religious thing? I couldn't, do you know what I mean? I couldn't understand, I couldn't compute how you could not eat meat. Like, that was just a daily occurrence for me.
It's like you have to have, it's like, where's your, if you don't have meat, it's like, well, where's the food?
Where's the meal?
It's not really eating if there's no meat in the diet. So for me, even just going plant-based, and you know, I used to go to Nando's and half chicken and all this, you know, stuff. But now I'll go to Nando's, I might have a beanie burger with, you know, have it hot, it's got the same spiciness, it gives you the same type of experience. But yeah, I think going plant-based might be a way to even cut down on your expenditure, because you're spending a lot more on meat. And you know, from what I understand, nutritionists, you can tell me, your body can only digest maybe a fist-sized meat every week. Is that approximately right? A medical doctor told me this. I don't know if he's right.
The thing is with meat and plant-based is that I think a lot of people think that, you know, meat is necessary for your diet as well. And you know, you hear a lot of people saying that plants are not complete protein, but this is what I say is that, you know, when you're eating plants for protein, you're not just eating one specific source of protein, you're eating varieties, and you're actually then getting all the amino acids that you need as well. And back to the point on budget, you know, like you said, plants are probably cheaper than meat as well. So, and also you can actually have a really cheap food. Like, you know, I was speaking to some diabetic, it was a group of diabetic people, and they were saying, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to eat? And I said, okay, let's talk about a chickpea curry. Let's say sweet potato chickpea curry. How much are sweet potatoes? You can probably get them for about 99p a pound. Chickpeas, let's say if you get a bag of them, you're paying about £1. If you get in a can, it's about 50p. You get some bit of coconut milk, some spices. What was that? £2 for maybe a big pot of sweet potato chickpea curry. You've got your proteins in there. You've got your carbohydrates. You've got some fats in there as well. Chuck some spinach in. You've got some more fibre. You know. So it's just again a re-education, but just learning as you go as well.
And what would you say about? Because one of the things that I face is people want their food to taste good, particularly Black people. We're not compromising on taste, and I think that is one of the things that kind of deters people from going plant-based. They think, where is the flavour going to be if I'm just having a plate of vegetables? So how would you advise people to kind of have tasty food on a plant-based diet?
I guess the reality is the taste is all in the seasoning, right? So, you know, the taste is not necessarily, because nobody wants to eat raw, dead meat, just boiled.
Just eat a boiled chicken
there
with
you
no...
go, boiled chicken with no seasoning. You know, that's the challenge really, is people think the flavour's coming from the meat. All right, go on then, you don't season the meat. Don't wash it, stick it in the pot and just boil it, see what happens. You're not going to enjoy the experience. So, I think that's really a misconception, and a lot of people, once they can get around that misconception, they can start finding alternatives to give them the textures that they're used to. You know, I know there's things like jackfruit, of people making like kind of chicken alternatives with the textures, but then also, you know, there's really great like plant-based forms of meat alternatives. So if you want to have a burger, if you want to have some sausages, if you want to have a burger, if you want to have, I don't know, they've got these all kinds of chicken fillets. I've got, you know, many of these type of things in the freezer. But you know, it just gives the experience. You know, and I've even got a 4-year-old daughter who loves chicken nuggets, and she eats veggie chicken nuggets. You know, and
does she know she's eating veggie?
Well, she knows now. Now it's becoming fashionable. Now she's like getting into it. You know, she'll go to school and say, "Oh no, I don't drink cow's milk. You know, I drink almond milk. I don't like." You know, so yeah, I guess it's kind of that re-educating and just. Yeah, I guess retraining our minds that we're not dependent on it. But you can still have it. I still have chicken. I go to my mum's house, I still have some. I
think now more than ever, it's easier for us to do that, because, you know, think about 20 years ago or so, if you wanted to go plant-based or something, you will probably have a side salad.
But
Exactly. Now there's so many options.
Yeah. And any other tips for how people can eat on their budgets? We've got the, you know, reducing meat or going plant-based. Anything else?
Also, I would definitely say as well how you actually store your foods as well. So freezing is my best friend ever. So, you know, a lot of the times when people will feel that they need to, you know, buy all the fruits in the Whole Foods or just Tesco, you know, we don't need to go to Whole Foods to get the fruits. But a lot of the times you can actually just go to the frozen section, get about 500 grams of blueberries, which are high in antioxidants, great for you, mangoes, high in vitamin A, so many fruits you can get frozen, and you can keep them. They're still fresh as well, so you know you've retained the nutrients in there, and you're still, you know, if you want to go and make a smoothie, just chuck them in. You don't have to even add ice. Frozen spinach as well, so all of it's there. And I have a lot of clients who then say, "Oh, I've bought all these vegetables, but by the time I want to use them, they've just gone off." Here, the freezer's your friend.
I totally second that. The freezer is your friend, whether it's fruit or vegetables. Meal prepping and freezing foods, you know. And I think another thing as well, like we were talking about Planet Organic or Whole Foods, whatever brand it is, you know, farmers markets as well, they are people's friends, whether it is you're looking for meat or fish or vegetables, you know. So that can be a good alternative as well. Okay, so changing topic slightly, if we think about the food industry as a whole, what role, if any, do you think that the food industry has played in the rise of obesity-related illnesses?
That's an interesting question. So yeah, I'm now a participant in the food industry, so we have a product in the market and we've launched what is effectively kind of a healthy alternative to energy drinks. So without sugar, without artificial sweeteners, it's very low in calories, and you know, with added vitamins, electrolytes. So yeah, I guess.
And it tastes good.
Thank you. We've done the taste test. Thank you so much. We should have got the taste test on camera. But yeah, no, I mean, for us, what we found is that there is a moving trend towards low sugar. So the government brought in a sugar tax 2019, and that sugar tax was punishing any soft drink that had more than 5 grams of sugar per 100 ml. And so we are about 1.5 is one of the drinks, the other one is 1.3 grams of sugar per 100 ml. For comparison, a Red Bull is 11 grams of sugar per 100 ml. So, you know, drinking a can of Red Bull, you've basically eaten a Mars bar. You know, that's the kind of sugar equivalent.
And people will have that kind of first thing in the morning as well. So,
but you don't really think of the sugar, you know, when you think of a Mars bar or chocolate bar, you think, okay, that's sugar, you know, but then you drink drinks, you think, oh, well, it's sweet, but you're not really contemplating actually how much sugar you're taking on board. And so I think, you know, definitely there are massive brands who are starting to understand that actually they need to reduce sugar. A lot of drinks have started reformulating and adding different sweeteners because, you know, they want to get down below that sugar threshold, which is 5 grams per 100 ml. But for us, you know, what we've tried to do is keep our sugar content low, but not still add artificial sweeteners, because that's then another source of like stuff that your body may struggle to process. So not everything which is like 0 sugar or 0 calories is always a healthy product for you. So I guess it's keeping that balance. But I think the industry as a whole, and I think consumers as a whole, are moving more towards being conscious of how much sugar are in certain types of products. And I think they're making different choices.
So what have you used as a sweetener in the product?
No sweeteners.
No
Zero.
Sweeteners. Okay.
Zero sweeteners.
It tastes really good.
Okay, so we use fruit juices. So we use fruit juices, which a lot of products don't use fruit juices. We use about 15% fruit juices. We do use natural flavorings as well as part of helping the taste profile, but we don't add like often it's like aspartame or like, you know, different types of things you can't even pronounce that they put in there to give the sweetness profile. So ours is a lot less sweet. It still has a taste, but it's a lot less sweet. It's more like a almost like a flavored water type of drink, rather than like a Red Bull, which, you know, as soon as you crack that Red Bull can, you can smell like this thing is powerful. It's got very distinctive smell. So yeah, you know, for us, it's like, it's been a journey to get there, and we've had 3 different versions. This is the 3rd version of the product that we've released. But yeah, we think we've been kind of gradually getting it right. And the last version, we had stevia in the product, which is a plant-based sweetener, but still a lot of people, when they taste it, are like, oh no, there's sweeteners in here. They can like, it does something to your throat.
Taste is very distinct.
Exactly. So we had to take out the plant-based sweetener and just go natural. So yeah, it's been a journey for us to formulate the product in the right way, and it's taken a lot of time and research, and yeah, we're just continuing to get the product out there, and you know, it's great to be part of sponsoring events like this.
It looks good. I think it looks good. It tastes good. So
exactly.
Definitely on the right track.
So yeah, just we kind of diverted a little bit.
Sorry, hijacked the discussion for an advert. It was a quick advertisement.
But yeah, so the role that the food industry might have played in obesity-related illnesses, we are seeing a rise in obesity, and you know, now we know that it is linked to you know, an underlying cause of many kind of chronic illnesses that we have. So what role, if any, do you think the food industry has played?
I feel like the food industry and the health industry don't often talk to each other. So, you know, it's great that we have food here, who, you know, combining the both. But a lot of the time, the food industry is to sell food. The health industry is for health. Why they don't communicate, you know.
How do you define the health industry, by the way? Who's in there? Who's in the health industry?
In there?
Yeah.
Just, what do you mean? Do you want me to name?
What is the health? No, but like, how do you describe the health industry?
Well, I guess it's a difficult one at the moment, because the wellness industry and the health industry, there's a little, not a blurred line, but I feel like we also need to redefine what wellness means as well, and what health means, because like I said before, we don't want it to be a very much Eurocentric-y focus. Like, we don't want a view of what health is based on a person of a look. The whole thing is, we want to help you in your health. We want to help you thrive to do whatever it is that you want to do, as opposed to, you know, you don't look like that person. Oh, well, you might not be healthy, or you know, we don't want to just have it as a visual. We want it to be very much from the inside. Well, I say we. I hope we all do anyway. And then I guess with the food industry, it's a lot. It's you know, profits are. It's very much about profits, but I do feel like the food industry does need to have that dialogue with the health industry as well. And that, in that way, you know, you will get the profits, but you would also help people as well, and help people thrive in their health, so that they can just continue to do whatever it is that they want to do in life.
Fantastic.
And I guess I would say that, I think for a period of time, you know, people talk about companies where they say people over profit, you know, and I think for a long time, maybe the food industry has prioritized the profits over people. And I feel it's nice now that you're seeing more brands that are kind of merging the two, that are actually looking out for people, like your brand, looking out for people's health and well-being, and while also supplying people's needs as well. And I think that's as consumers are getting more wise. But what role do you think, if you think about children in particular, because you know, obesity is rising for children especially, so do you think the food industry has a part to play in the rise in children's obesity?
Definitely. You know, we see.
In what way?
Well, let's take, for example, cereal. We see the brand. So I used to work in packaging and marketing and things. So you see how it's marketed to kids, and you know, you might see that a cereal brand is actually positioned at the bottom of a shelf as opposed to the middle or the top, where the children can see it. And you know, it's lots of bright images to say, kids, go put this in your mum's basket, shall we? So you know, they definitely have a role to play in that sense of, you know, not just attracting kids with the branding, but also, you know, being mindful of what they're putting in the products as well. Even I know that, the taste, it has to be there and the kids would want to eat it too, but just being mindful, very mindful about that.
Yeah, I think government is also understanding that actually obesity is something that needs to be controlled at the supplier level, like people who are making products, like as you were saying, there's like food industry and health and well-being industry, but actually the two must start to become one and the same. People who are producing food must be mindful of the health of the people that they're producing it for. And I think what we're going to find, because of impact of COVID, and now Boris is saying, people can, they're putting money into the NHS to get people fitter and healthier. These are things they should have been doing, decades ago. NHS should not be there just to treat people when they turn up sick at the hospital. They should be saying, actually, how do we promote a progressive health agenda for young people? It's like promoting just health, well-being, rather than addressing and dealing with sickness, because that's the stuff that costs the billions of pounds. Obesity costs, the NHS billions. I don't know the exact statistic, but I know it's one of the highest cost lines in the NHS. So, taking that proactive action, I think, is now, it's a budget agenda now that we need to save some money. We need to stop people from, dying from things like COVID and so on. If people are healthier, and particularly within our communities where obesity rates may be higher, diabetes and so on. These are preventable illnesses, type 2 diabetes, these are preventable illnesses that we're struggling with, that are really on the basis of maybe a lack of knowledge and, a lack of actually taking that proactive steps to keep healthy and keep well.
I think, because I have done some work around type 2 diabetes prevention on a kind of NHS programme, and it depends on the area that I was working in, but a high proportion of the people on the programme were black or Asian. So it is something that is prevalent within our communities, which is a shame. But I think, like what you said, in terms of the preventative approach, that's the kind of approach that we would take as nutritionists, is trying to support people and educate people before it gets to the point where they are having to go in for operations or have something removed or something like that. So I hope that's the approach that we'll continue to move forward with.
Definitely.
Sure. And there should be really community-led initiatives, and I think that's why things like this program are fantastic, because you're kind of going out to the community directly through Zoom and Instagram and engaging people with information. It's fantastic.
And that's really it. It's just a re-education. We're not taught about diabetes or preventing diabetes in our GCSEs, or we're not taught about insulin and glucose or things like that, because it's so then re-educating and it's
But I think part of it is as well is that I would label it as sometimes I think we are kind of trained to outsource our health as well. We don't really pay attention to it unless there is an issue, and then we go to the doctor, as opposed to thinking, and I think it's something that you said earlier as well, is you recognising how you feel when you eat certain food. Does it make me feel tired? Do I feel energised? And that's one of the things I try to work with my clients on, is actually being really, really aware around how you feel, and what supports you and what doesn't, and just taking control in that way.
Sure, and often even our communities, when we talk about getting to the doctor stage, that might be at the stage where things have gone too far. They may be having a problem that they carry for a long time, and I think we're guilty of often carrying things and think, oh no, it'll be okay.
I'll
just take a paracetamol, I'll just take some aspirin and then it'll be fine. And actually, that culture of actually turning up to your GP and saying, hey, actually I've got this thing, this thing, or this has started, or something's changed, or that's another culture we also have to promote as part of wellness.
That's very true. It's very true. I think the GP should kind of be, well, obviously if you've got a serious injury, like you've broken your leg or something, you can't just eat that away or whatever. But the GP should not be your first point of call. It should be the last point of call, where we've taken preventative measures to ensure that we don't have certain illnesses or ailments, and then the GP is not there to kind of fix us. We should be doing that daily. We should be taking those preventative measures, because once, let's say, if someone has high blood pressure or something, that wasn't just a sudden thing. That was years of that building up. So that's
But then when you do notice things, though, I will just say that you do notice things. I always recommend just it's worth checking things out. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because there may be small signs that things are changing in your body. You know, it could be a persistent headache. It could be, I don't know, bowel movements changing. It could be, there could be a whole range of stuff.
No, definitely.
That just, you know, you might think, you know what, it's not a major issue, so I'm just gonna, you know, just keep on continuing or whatever. And actually, you know, that's how things.
No, that's actually true what you've just said. Sorry, I was just thinking about it because when I think what you were saying before in terms of people just like just saying, oh, it's okay, it's just this, it's okay, and then get into the doctor stage, and then you're like, oh gosh, what is this? But that also comes down to understanding your body. You know, when was the last time we sat down and just did a scan of how we are feeling, or do we feel a little tingle in our toes? We would never know that unless we actually sat down and just said, oh, actually, my toe feels a bit weak like this, or my left fingernail or whatever feels like this. But doing that body scan and having that time to actually understand your body, and even know, like, okay, I've just taken this, like what you were saying, of just eating this thing, and oh, it doesn't feel right here. But when you're so used to that feeling, you might not notice it. So
that's the thing, people getting used to feeling not their best, you know, feeling uncomfortable, and we really want to avoid that and know what feels optimum for us.
Exactly.
Okay. Moving on to the next question, because we kind of focused on that one. So if we think about diet culture in particular, and the range of diets that people kind of discuss and think about, and some of the things I can think about is intermittent fasting, which I get asked a lot about. There's another, what's the other one? The one with the ketone. Keto. So if you think about the influx of various diets that we have, do you think that causes any confusion with people in terms of what is good in terms of nutrition, what works for their bodies, the effects of foods?
I think,
no, you probably did say that.
I think a lot. Well, when we're talking about diets, a lot of the times, many people are talking about weight loss or weight management, but research has shown that diets in themselves don't work long term for weight loss, because yes, you might lose some weight within the next year or so, whatever. Research has shown that when you then look at it, let's say 3 years down the line, the people have put the weight back on, or even put weight on more than what they initially started with. And that's why you see the whole thing of yo-yo dieting, because you've started one diet, didn't work, gone to another one, it worked, and then got your summer body, and then went on your holiday, ate it, and it's just a real terrible cycle in that sense. And the whole thing about diets themselves, it should be something that's sustainable. Well, the lifestyle, it should be something that's sustainable. So, if someone says, I'm going on a keto diet because I want to lose weight, it's like, okay, but is that sustainable for the rest of your life? If it's just a short-term thing, it's like, okay, but what you're going to do after the year is you're just going to go back to normal or something. So it's definitely something that has to be sustainable. So and make it part of your lifestyle, as opposed to just, I want to just lose this weight.
No, I just want to agree. I think that's very very much the right type of approach. Is like, what is the most sustainable way of living and eating? And I even think that comes into exercise as well, because I feel like there's kind of a lot of Instagram kind of fitness hype that kind of means people have to do heavy weights or train like in quite extreme ways that may not actually be sustainable for your body to sustain over decades. And I think as people progress, and I know myself as I'm getting older, I know I look quite young, but I'm in the wrong side of my 30s. I'm the wrong side. I'm not the other side. This is the secret. This is the secret. I'm the wrong side. So my point is, it's like, for me, it's like, as you get older, the things you could do 10 years ago, you actually say, actually, I can't train like that consistently anymore. It's not sustainable. So you know, what are the things I want to still be able to do in my 50s, you know, in my 60s? And then with that mindset, you might say, actually, maybe I shouldn't be putting so much pressure through my, maybe I should take up some more balanced types of exercise and movements, and, you know, even with your diet as well. Because you know, when I was much younger, I wanted to be hench and like take protein, creatine, and all these things to get hench. But yeah, that's not really kind of how to eat and live for longevity.
And also, like, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, a restrictive diet is not really what we should be going towards anyway. Like, restricting a whole food group, like, carbohydrates are actually really useful, you know, useful for energy, useful for our mental health as well, which many people often neglect and often don't understand as well. And you know, especially, you know, when you have keto diets which are very much high in fat, where I think a lot of the time we're thinking about the weight loss, but we're not thinking about things like cholesterol. You know, I've seen so many people who have gone on a keto diet and then they've gone to the doctor because they've got high cholesterol, and it's like, well, we don't really speak about those things. It's just talking about weight loss, and that shouldn't really be the goal, just weight loss. It's just health gain.
Health gain. I love that. I love that. And it's I mean, coming back to it, how do you feel? You know, when you're eating in this way, whether you know, whether it's keto, low carb, whatever it is. Are you happy, number one? Because I don't see the benefit of going on a diet as well if you're going to be miserable and you're going to be craving food. And I think that's another thing.
That's what you said about mental health, right? You said carbs, because I don't know if you want to touch more on that, but I think that's really interesting about the link between...
So carbs help to make what it's called your happy hormone, serotonin. So to get from tryptophan, which is amino acid, to serotonin, which is a happy hormone, it needs a carbohydrate carrier, and if you don't have carbohydrates, you can't make serotonin. So, you know? So, you know, you want to ensure that you are having the hormones that you need, and also your brain, it might only be about 3% of your body or something, but it uses 20% of your glucose. So wouldn't you just want to give it what it needs straight away, as opposed to, I get that, you know, you can fat can be turned into energy and things like that, but carbohydrates are the most efficient source of energy. So why don't we give our brains the most efficient source of energy so it can help us the best way it can as well.
Okay, so just to wrap up then, I'd like you, with all your expertise and knowledge, to kind of leave us with some gems. So what nutrition, diet, wellness, I guess, lifestyle tips would you leave for people, particularly black people, the black population in the UK?
Maybe I'll go first. I may have less to say. What tips? I mean, okay, so from my personal experience and the things that I've experimented with and I've learned, I would say plant-based is really important. I wouldn't say cut out meat completely, because I almost feel like you could cut out completely, but then you might find a day comes where you just fall off that bandwagon, and then it's like back to like meat central or whatever, you know. So for me, it's like, in a balanced way, going plant-based. I think consumption of water, staying hydrated is really important. Even just things like sleeping enough. Sleeping enough is really crucial. Like going to bed earlier rather than later. You know, I've found that within our community we tend sometimes to do things later, even how we go out and party. You know, our clubs are starting at 1 a.m. You know what I mean? That's the right time to get to the club. It's like,
why would you
1 a.m.
You know?
You know what I mean? And then it's like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. You're coming home. It's not sustainable. It's one of those things. Other communities, they go straight from the office, go to the pub or whatever. Then the pub at 6 p.m. By 10 p.m. they could be in bed. You know, they've had a good night out. Anyway, but it's different things. But you kind of get my point. Is that, you know, I think that whole thing about sustainability, and you know, I would definitely encourage things like yoga. I know we've had yoga in this program. Things like Tai Chi, understanding like energy and energy movement around the body, Tai Chi and Qigong, you know, these type of practices, which, you know, they're kind of seen as like Asian or ancient Asian practices. But actually, you know, in Africa, we've done a lot of these things. And
I think we're going to even have a yoga person who,
Kemetic yoga. There you go. These are the ancient origins of these type of systems are really from Africa. So, you know, who is bringing that knowledge back to the community and sharing it? And, you know, we have to do our own research and find these things, go online and find classes like Kemetic yoga and African yoga. If you Google these things on YouTube, then you'll find stuff.
Yeah. No, that's good. And
any tips from you? Any gems?
I would probably say definitely find something that's sustainable. Also seek information and seek credible information as well, because there are so many things online from blogs that look like they're credible sources, but find a credible health nutrition source where you can get your information from. And also just tap into your community as well, because you know, we find that there are things that are, you know, we might find generic information about health, but not something that's like tailored to our community as well. So, for example, like vitamin D recommendations, where before you know the whole COVID, the recommendations were based on the Caucasian population, but didn't actually include people with darker skin. Even though the research was there, it wasn't clear when it came to recommendations. And even the fact that we have differences of skin, the way our skin reacts, you know, with dermatology, it's all different, hair and things like that. So definitely tap into your community, education and sustainability. To find something sustainable.
Okay, all right. And I'll add some gems in there. And some of them are similar to what you said. One of the things I always talk to my clients about is sleep. I think sleep is so important for just restoring yourself physically, mental health, emotional well-being. It's so important. So I would say that, and I would also add yoga as well. I think yoga is one of the things where definitely helps me to connect to my body, and knowing, you know, oh, this hip is a bit tighter than the other one, or this knee is a bit wobbly or dodgy. So yoga is another thing. And I'd also emphasize the carbohydrates as well. I know we've kind of spoken about that, but just making sure we're getting a range of carbohydrates, not just relying on the rice and the wheat, but actually going back to some of those ancient grains, not having too many of them and keeping the quantity down. So I would definitely say that. So we've got a few more minutes left. So any other gems or anything else that you want to add to the conversation?
I don't know. I mean, well, as I have two nutritionists, can I ask about sickle cell? Do you guys know anything about what could be helpful for people with sickle cell?
I don't want to get into it specifically, because I know that each person is specific, but each person is specific to, you know, diet. I don't want to just recommend it to everyone, but I do know that there are certain considerations, as you know as well, in terms of diet. So definitely looking at the resources. I think there are some available online, especially with the Sickle Cell Society as well. Tapping into that and really, I guess, seeing what works for you there as well, because I know that certain things don't always work for everyone as well. Sure. But definitely tap into the resources that are available specific to sickle cell. Yeah,
no, that's helpful. And just speaking more on sickle cell, I'm a board member of the Sickle Cell Society, actually. There you go. But yeah, I mean, just talking about gems, I would say also like kind of micronutrients. So things like sea moss, which has very nutrient dense, it has like I think 92 out of the body's 102 minerals that you need for your body. Sea moss, bladderwrack. Tell us.
I know that it's there's some all sea moss is made equal, so especially if you have the nutrients that you need already, it might be a bit high sometimes if you're taking it all the time. So occasionally, so occasionally it's good, and I know that there's so many benefits to sea moss.
I think it's the iodine, maybe is what you're talking about. So people have to manage their iodine levels. But
that's a really helpful tip. And so we're going to wrap up now. So thank you to both of you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.